Alright, so a while back, I decided it was a good idea to recreate bedwars in a hypixel housing. This is probably like an idea that has never crossed anybody else's minds, and I don't know what I was thinking when I thought of this idea. But I got it working. It took me like 2 days. It wasn't that difficult. But I did use some I think techniques that nobody else really did. So I'm just gonna go through how I did this and provide some sort of a tutorial. It's not very comprehensive. If you want more stuff on it, you can just contact me, I guess. Yeah. Bye. I decided it was a good idea to recreate bedwars in housing. So don't ask me why. I don't have an idea why either. It's probably one of the most stupid things you ever heard in a while. But this is how I got it working. So when you break down bedwars into these simple steps, abstractify it down, there's only a couple of things you really have to worry about. And I've broken down bedwars into a couple parts, which I think I implemented semi-well in a housing. So the obvious thing that separates my bedwars housing from other bedwars housing is how I was able to let players build a bed defense and actually place blocks around their bed. So the way I implemented this was I used a different sort of bed detection system than other housings do. So normally when you're when you are playing these other bedwars housings, the way to detect the bed is that let's turn off build, right? What happens next is that when I break this block, right, the game has a thing called an event detection. I don't have it right now because I'm not the owner of this housing, but normally you would have this bed detection or block detection, which allows you to detect blocks. But this only works if you don't have build perms. So if I break this block, I know bed perms, that's why it's regenerating. That's why it's able to detect it. However, if I turn build on, what happens is that if I break it, you see the message. It doesn't have the message anymore, which means that it doesn't work. So what this does is that basically for these bedwars housings that use this mechanic, you can't place blocks around it because they don't want you to have build perms when you're able to break the bed, right? And that's kind of a downside because I want to place blocks around the bed. So instead I found another solution to this, which is kind of ingenious but kind of really stupid. So the way I do it is basically I use something called a poison tick timer. When I break this block, you can see it gets me water breathing, right? When I break this, it gives me water breathing as well. That's supposed to give me fire resistance, but I messed up somewhere. Anyways, as you can see, if I infinitely break this in a loop, right, I get infinite water breathing, or get infinite fire resistance, which is supposed to happen, but I didn't implement it into this housing. So what you can do is that you can make a poison loop to teleport you from this bed over to this bed, and by breaking these in succession, what you can do is have an infinite potion effect loop. So you can get infinite water breathing if this bed is still here, or infinite fire resistance if this bed is still here. So this allows for some pretty interesting things because combined with your poison loop, you can also add a little bit of a listener. So per damage tick you take, right, you can go check if you have a potion effect. So if you don't have a potion effect, that means that this bed is broken, because if this bed wasn't broken, you would infinitely get this potion effect. If that makes any sense at all, hopefully it does. I'll go give you a bit of a look on how that really works in my housing over here. So I'm gonna quickly set up this thing over here. If I break this block, right, as you can see, I have poison. Basically every tick I get teleported to the other base's bed, and what this does is that this allows me to be able to break this bed to get infinite fire resistance and water breathing, which you can see on this side. So if I stop breaking the beds, I stop getting these fire resistance and water breathing, which in turn will get detected by this system. If you can see on the side, there's beneath bedwars test, beneath the housing name, you can see the red bed and blue bed displayed as global variables. So if I stop breaking it, you can see it sets to 0. This is basically how the bed detection system works. It's kind of convoluted, but I think it does a pretty decent job. Of course, the downside is that you're gonna need someone to be able to AFK and hold down left click. But I found it simple enough. Realistically, you can also just code a bot to do this, but I wanted this to be like completely vanilla, so this is the next best method I could come up with. Alright. The second part is that you don't want anybody to be able to like break the island as well, right? And you want us to be able to replace the island like this. You want to be able to like, as someone plays, you want to be able to just replace all these blocks with air. So I had a pretty simple method to do this, and I'll explain that in a bit. But first of all, I explain how I was able to make it so that the players are unable to break this block over here, because obviously if they're playing this game and they're spawned in, they will have build perms, because I want them to be able to place blocks over their bed and build across to the other island. So the way I did this was pretty simple. Basically I just push the blocks out of the plot so you're unable to interact with it. This is done by using slime blocks and sticky pistons. There we go, and some redstone. There we go. Well, basically all you have to do is, oh, not here. All you have to do is just have a slime block placing up towards the way you want it to go. Push one up here, and just push it down. Then you can see it's outside of the plot now. It's been known for quite a while now. Like, I think this glitch was known since probably early, like, 2020, maybe 2019, I don't know. And they still haven't patched it, which is good, because I don't want them to patch it, but yeah. And then the way I was able to get this island to reset every single time was I created a copy of what I wanted to see on top. So what this allows me to do is, let's say I want to be able to copy paste this, right? I just set up a couple commands. You can just copy this. We have a copy stick. Here we go. And copy this. Go over to the other side, or select 2. You go over there, copy your AFK group. And what you're able to do now is that you're able to just paste it. So as you can see, earlier I had my AFK player, right, holding down both left click and right click. So what this does is that when I want to start a game, all you have to do is teleport to this cobweb, which it automatically does because it can sense game start using the Q function, which I will talk about later. And then you can just like drop down through this cobweb and aim at the air, because the way this works is that it allows you to copy paste if it's inside the air. So let's say I'm over here, right? As long as you don't emit any blocks and you hold on left and right click, you're able to paste, which is good. So that means everything can be automated. There's no use of a bot. You don't have to /pose A /pose B, etc. And it's really convenient. Okay, I'm rambling quite a bit, I'm sorry, but I just want to document this in the future. If I look at this again, I know what's going on. Okay, the third thing is the shop. The shop is pretty simple. You just right click on these guys and you get shit. And there's also, alongside this, there's a gen. The gen is also pretty simple. All I did was that I set up a region over here, and this region is basically spans across these wood blocks over here, like this. Because interesting thing about housing regions is that only like you can enter and exit a region just by standing in by having the blocks where your feet is at, right? So if you jump out over here, you're actually exiting this region. But all I did was that I had a system where if you go inside here, the listener using the poison tick will check if you're in the region or not. And if you're in a region, then it just gives you iron and gold. It's really quite that simple. And then quite a symbol for these other things as well, except for the upgrading items, which is the axe, pickaxe, and iron armor. But for everything else, all you have to do, and the wool, all you have to do is that you create a little function which removes a certain, first of all, checks how much iron and gold you have. If you have above the required iron and gold, all you do is remove the required iron and gold, and then you get the item. Alright, so for this, axe, pickaxe, and iron armor, what you have to do, what you really have to do to do this, because what you want to do is when you die, right, you want to be able to retain the same items, like in actual bedwars game. So let's say you have an iron pickaxe, right, or a gold pickaxe. And when you die, you want to have like a wood pickaxe, and want to have an iron pickaxe, etc. So all that you have to do is that I created a separate player function, which is called axe level and pickaxe level. And I'll just show you. I had this function called inventory death, if I can find it. Here we go. And I just checked for the axe level and iron and whatever level. So here we have if you have an axe level of armor level of 0, axe level of, let's say something like 1, you would get a wooden axe on spawn, and whenever you die, the axe level just decreases by 1, except if it's 0, which then it won't decrease. And it's really quite that simple. It's not too difficult. Of course, the main downside of using NPCs as a shop is that players can edit it, and that's still a problem I'm working on. Probably will not fix it because I'm too lazy, and this is only a proof of concept. But yeah, I was thinking of using like inventory GUIs, but I couldn't find a way to save the prior items that a player has. So the next best option would be using like a command shop system, but that's a bit too convoluted, and I don't want to do that because that seems like a lot of work. Okay, let's talk about the death system. The death system is pretty simple. All I have here is a huge game area that whenever you drop below, for example, this island over here, you instantly die. So all this does is that you get teleported over to this little box I have over here, and you get stuck there for a little bit. There I have it gives you a weakness when you enter this box for like 5 seconds, and then once again we have the poison tick system on the AFK player. So every time it takes damage, it checks, it sends a broadcast to all the players, see if they have weakness or not. If they do have weakness, this variable on the side in the scoreboard, dead, will increment by 1, set it to 1. And then it checks again every poison tick. If it doesn't have weakness and dead equals 1, it means that it had a weakness, right? It was inside this box, so they're inside the box, but the weakness has run out, so the timer, the cooldown has run out, and then it just teleports them back over to these bases and sets the dead back to 0. That's basically how I set up the death system. It's quite straightforward. I don't think there's anything too noteworthy to talk about. I did reuse the death system for queuing. That gave me a couple headaches, but I don't think it was too complicated. Alright, now let's talk about the queuing system. The queuing system was probably the part that gave me the most headaches, apart from the original finding the way to detect beds. So originally the queue system was gonna be pretty easy, right? All you had to do was that you can set up a couple variables, and I had two variables I was working with. I was working with a local player position variable and a global queue number variable. Basically, queue number just says how many total players are in a queue. So if I click this over here, you can see that I'm currently number 1, which is my queue position, out of 1, which is the total queue number. This way, all you have to do is that that would excuse me. Basically that way, you can detect which number you are in the queue and how long the queue is. And the way you start the game is that if the game ends, right, and there's more than 2 players in the queue, it just teleports the top 1 and 2 players in the queue into this thing, and the game starts. That's supposed to be simple, right? But the problem is that join queue, leave queue, you're supposed to be able to just like if you're joining a queue, right? You're supposed to be able to just change your queue position to the queue number, increase queue number by 1, and then if you're leaving a queue, what you do is that you simply have a third global variable called queue leaver, where you set this global variable to your current queue position, and then to everybody in the queue, if they're above this queue position, it just decrements by 1. For example, if you think of an actual thing, let's have a couple wood blocks here, if I can, or I can use barriers, I guess. A couple like wooden sand here, right? So if you think about it, let's say this is queue number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And then let's say queue position number 2 leaves. Everything greater than 2 would decrease by 1. It would drop down by 1, like this. That's how it works. However, the big problem is that if players leave the lobby, leave the thing, right? Leave the housing. What happens is that you're unable to interact with the player position queues again. So you can't set global leave to the queue number. So you don't know who left if someone that did leave. And you won't know, if someone did leave, you won't be able to interact with the queue. That was kind of a big problem, so I decided to use another listener. And this listener was once again based on a poison tick on the AFK player. Now this is a bit more complicated because it was complicated. So, I'll use a sign to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Okay, maybe I won't. So let's have these different wood types represent the queue position and stuff, right? You have a queue position of 1, 2, and 3. So the queue number here would be 3, right? So the way I detected who left the queue was that every single time a tick detected, every single poison tick, what I did was that I had everybody who was in the queue increment this variable over here, which I'm going to call, I forgot what I called it. It's probably like something numeric and stupid, but I had an increment. So let's say everybody right now who is in the queue is currently in the housing. So every poison tick, they would add up this thing, this new variable over here. So let's say queue position 1 adds 1, queue position 2 adds 2, and queue position 3 adds 3. 1, 2, 3. You would find this total to be roughly 6 because there are 6 players in the queue. And then if you add up the queue number using this arithmetic, like, you know, sum of all, you know, that one, sum of all like arithmetics. I forgot the exact formula, but you would find that it should give you 6 as well, right? However, let's say now this player 2 leaves, right? And what happens is that when it adds up, you'll realize that between these two, there's a difference of 2, and therefore you can figure out that the player who leaves is the second player. Of course, this queue system does have its like does have its like, you know, cons. The biggest one is that it only checks per like poison damage tick. What this does is that it's not instantaneous. So if two players leave between these ticks, it can't detect it. It doesn't know how many players leave. It thinks that one player is left when multiple players have left, and that could really mess with the queue system. So it's a good thing I'm not popular. Otherwise, it would have broke. So yeah, it's the basic rundown on how the queue system works. There are some glitches which I'm not sure how to fix. So earlier I was talking about the way I was able to paste, right? So if I hop onto my alt account to show you, give me a little bit. Ooh, if it kills, there we go. What you would realize is that let's say /initiate, right? This is how I /initiate. What happens here is that I can paste, and then okay, whatever. Okay, normally this is how you do. You /initiate, you get the things, you can paste it down. I pasted it down, right? But whenever you come back over here and try to break the block again, first of all, the bed can glitch, as you can see over here, which makes it so then the bed gets destroyed. But also, because I swap the player group when this happens. If I show you real quick. Whenever you exit and enter this paste zone, right? You're unable to paste if you don't have build perms. So what I do is I have to swap the player build group before it teleports back to the beds. However, sometimes that doesn't happen as fast, and when you teleport to the beds again, you still have build perms, which can just make it so that you instantaneously break this bed and the player spawns without a bed, which is not good. So it's not the most robust system, but it's mostly a proof of concept. And I've been talking for quite a while, and you probably don't enjoy this that much. I might make a better video for now, but as of this moment, it's mostly just for documentation. So in the future, if I want to make something similar or polish this up, I know how everything works. If I find the effort to, I might decide to go ahead and like make a what do you call it? I might decide to go ahead and make a flowchart just to demonstrate it, make it easier to understand. Do comment below if you want that. Otherwise, I won't because I'm lazy. Alright, goodbye.